Eric Linask here at ITEXPO in Miami, Florida. On the program with me today, Jason Taplesai from VoIP Innovations. Jason, thanks for joining me. Good to have you.
Thanks, Eric.
So it's kind of an exciting time, an interesting time. We're seeing a lot of, in the landscape, the VoIP landscape, a lot of change, some mergers, acquisitions going on. What do you make of it all?
Well, over the past year, we've seen rewind a couple years back, we saw a huge, everybody jumped into the market, and the market's been growing. And over the past 18 months, we've noticed that the market's kind of consolidated. People are either A, going out of business, getting out of the business, or what we've seen more of is larger companies buying smaller companies and consolidating the market to try to win some market share over. So that's a trend we've definitely been seeing, and we anticipate it to be moving forward in that direction.
You expect to see a lot more consolidation?
Yeah, I think over the next 12 months to 18 months, you're going to see larger CLEX, ILEX, larger aggregators actually consuming some of the smaller players to actually win more market share quickly.
How does that impact you?
Well, we've had a few offers on our company, and we're actively looking for some smaller players that fit our model, our wholesale model, to increase our customer base at a more rapid pace.
Got it. Also, I've had a lot of, especially this week and recently in general, seeing a lot of interest and activity around the SMS space. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, we've seen a lot. SMS has been a big topic, a hot buzz topic for the past couple years, and we knew it was coming down the pipe. And now what we're starting to see is a lot of our customers, ITSPs, resellers, they're looking for numbers that have SMS capability. And so right now, if you can offer that, that's something that a lot of the other players are now starting to get into. So it's going to be something that before it was a nice to have, now it's going to be a need to have in order to compete. And what you're really seeing is, you take my son, for example, Riley, he's 6 years old. When he gets a little bit older, he'll get a number, it's assigned to him. He's going to use that number for the rest of his life. He'll put it on his smartphone. It'll have fax capabilities if that's still around, the SMS. And that's why we're going to start to see a consolidation of all these services onto one number that sticks with a person throughout their life, almost like a Social Security number.
Right. What's driving that increased interest in SMS?
Well, what happened was the traditional carriers, the Verizons, the AT&Ts, right? They sold voice services and they sold text messaging services, SMS services. What we're finding out is that their model's changing a little bit since voice over IP and all these other services are becoming virtualized out on the IP space. We're finding that the carriers are starting to now sell data services, right? And the push to the SMS coming up is that the VoIP providers are now running their services over the data services on your cell phone here, and that's pushing all of us providers, aggregators, to, if we want to have the business, we have to be able to send text messages through our numbers. So that's where we see it going.
What does all of this change mean for the pricing structures?
Well, we think that the pricing structures is going to continue to go down. In 2017, the reciprocal compensation, also known as RecipComp, is going to go away, right? So all the CLEX out there that are getting reciprocal compensation are going to switch their model to more of a bill and keep type model. So we purchase or we buy our services through dozens of CLEX, ILEX, large aggregators out there, and we've noticed a few of our CLEX already starting to change their business model to get ahead of that 2017 jump from RecipComp to bill and keep. So we definitely see a change in the landscape of, from my point of view, a wholesale VoIP company and who I'm purchasing through. I buy from a lot of CLEX. We see that definitely changing. The pricing structure is going to increase. And so people that have traditionally in my space sold their services at a thin margin, they're going to see their margins get even thinner, which might make them feel the pain a little bit more, which might actually increase the consolidation of the market.
Well, certainly another thing that makes them feel the pain a little bit more is fraud, but not something that we've heard quite as much about lately than we did, say, a couple, 3 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you seeing?
Well, with fraud, it's interesting. We saw a lot of international fraud on the termination side, right? I think anybody that's been in this business has been hit with fraud, and it's usually not $100, $1,000. It's usually tens of thousands of dollars. What we're now starting to see is not we're seeing domestic fraud, but we're also seeing more traditional type frauds. So voice fraud. So for example, back in the day, someone might hack into a switch, send a bunch of calls to Cuba, right? And I incur the cost, you sell it to somebody else, and you have free cost of goods.
Right.
Now we're seeing a lot more scams where people are making calls saying they're Google, for example, and Eric, I need to have your credit card number so I can update your Google AdWords or AdSense. Mm-hmm. And so we're seeing a lot more of that type of fraud. So we've actually come up at VoIP Innovations, we have come up with a new product line that's our VoIP our fraud monitoring. And basically what it's going to do is, if you're a customer of ours or not a customer, you can run your CDRs through our system. It looks at anomalies. So our algorithm sits there and runs and looks for anomalies that are going to be abnormal. So, Eric, you send a couple calls to Cuba, all of a sudden we see a spike. So we alert you so that we can minimize that fraud. You're never going to eliminate fraud, but the whole goal is to actually minimize the damage. So that's where we are with the fraud.
Interesting, and just leveraging data from your customers to identify those anomalies.
Absolutely. So you simply send us their CDRs, we pump them through our algorithm, and we look for anomalies and try to shut down that fraudulent activity.
Any sense of currently how costly fraud can be?
Yeah, it's. I think last year it was a $56 billion.
Wow.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
So it's definitely increasing, and it used to be traditionally it was more international fraud. Now we're seeing it start to creep more into North America, into the United States, Canada, more on local origination, local termination, and it's not so much stealing traffic, as I said, but actually fraud schemes. So we try to educate our industry like VoIP Innovations always does. We have a blog. It's blog.voipinnovations.com, which we talk about all these different industry trends, and we just try to promote some information out there to help people out.
Well, good. We appreciate you doing that service. Jason, as always, good to have you on the program. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. Appreciate it.